Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nicole, the Notorious Fantasy Ad. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some late-round wide receiver targets for fantasy football in 2021. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 of these late-round wide receiver targets. And by late round, I mean they're going behind the 100 mark based upon current underdog ADP, so 100 plus in that mark. Now, some people would say that is not late round, that is just very late middle round. So there are guys that go even further back. We're talking in like the 140s. So those guys are definitely late round wide receivers in my opinion, and hopefully in your opinion as well. So if you guys do end up enjoying this late round wide receiver target video, let me know down below in the comments section what you enjoyed about it. And while you're down there, if you're new, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it a ton, and I'm going to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin with the first guy to talk about here, and that's Mr. Big Chest, Mr. Cold Feet, Mr. Call God, Antonio Brown, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Antonio Brown only played in 8 games last season due to him being suspended, and Tampa Bay Tom Brady called him up on the phone and eventually got him to go down to Tampa Bay. Even after all of this narrative that Bruce Arians did not want Antonio Brown, that Tom Brady didn't want Antonio Brown, it ended up being completely bogus, and Antonio Brown shows up to Tampa Bay just like he did in New England, and he played really well. But instead of getting cut this time and doing something stupid, he ends up playing the whole season. And you know what he does? He wins a Super Bowl ring and scores a touchdown in the Super Bowl. In the 8 games that Antonio Brown played, he finished as wide receiver 65 in PPR, 66.5 PPR, and wide receiver 66 in standard leagues. From a points per game perspective, he finished as wide receiver 23 in PPR, tied with his boy, Boo Boo Smith-Schuster. That's what he calls him, Juju Smith-Schuster. Wide receiver 26 in half PPR, and wide receiver 27 in standard, tied with about 3 other wide receivers, averaging 14.6 PPR points per game, 11.8 half PPR points per game, and 9 standard points per game. So why do I like Mr. Big Chest, Mr. Antonio Brown so much in 2021? It is because I believe that Tom Brady likes to throw the ball to everyone on the field. I believe that he is going to target Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown. Now, the thing is that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are like 3rd round picks, maybe even higher in some leagues, maybe around a 4th round pick, but in that round 1 to 4 range, or round 2 to 4 range, I would say that is where you're going to be seeing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans go. Antonio Brown is going at an extreme discount in that case. He's going much, much later. So why not take a flyer on Antonio Brown? If something was to happen to Mike Evans, if something was to happen to Chris Godwin, knock on wood, we don't hope for injuries, but what I'm saying is if someone was to get hurt, Antonio Brown could step into a humongous role in this offense. We even saw deep down the stretch of last season in the later games, Antonio Brown was getting some heavy usage. Weeks 15, 16, and 17, this guy was dominant. Wide receiver number 9 in week 15 up against the Atlanta Falcons, had a grand total of 93 receiving yards and 1 touchdown with 5 receptions. Week 16 didn't play as good, but still scored 13.5 points, wide receiver 29 on the week, and week 17 up against the Atlanta Falcons, 36.8 points in that game, being wide receiver number 3 on the week. So it's clear that Antonio Brown does still have the talent that he had back in the day in like 2015 through 2018, when a lot of people would tell you that Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in fantasy football and the best wide receiver in the NFL. He has not fallen off. He is still legitimately very good. Very, very good. And his stats show it. 61 targets last year for a grand total of 45 receptions, 531 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. Now, it's easy to do the math to figure out how many yards and touchdowns and receptions he was going to end up having because he played in 8 games. So you multiply it by 2, he would have had over 1,000 receiving yards. If my math is correct, he had a grand total of 483 receiving yards. I think I read off the wrong number. So just shy of 1,000 receiving yards. He would have had 90 receptions. That's pretty good. Would have had 8 total touchdowns. Now, again, you can't necessarily say that that's exactly the numbers he would have gotten because he could have had some cold games, some hot games, but I think he would have finished around the 1,000-yard mark. And I just think that where he's going in drafts, not a lot of people are talking about him. I understand that the guy might end up going crazy and doing some stupid fucked up shit again to get him banned from the NFL, banished from the NFL, and we'll never see him again. But I think that if Antonio Brown is able to keep a clean record in 2021, he is being severely underlooked, and a lot of people people are going to be mad that they didn't take that late round shot on AB in the later rounds. Next up, we got wide receiver of the Indianapolis Colts, Mccall Pittman Jr., number 11, and I note that because he ain't no bitch. He ain't giving up his number to Mr. Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz changed his number to whatever number that he ended up with. The number, I don't even remember. I think he went to 1. Maybe. I don't even remember. Maybe he's number 3. I don't know. Who gives a fuck? But in 13 games, Mr. Mccall Pittman finished as wide receiver 78 in PPR, 80.5 PPR, and 86 in standard. Meaning from a points per game perspective, he was also wide receiver 82 in PPR, 83.5 PPR, and 87 in standard, averaging 7.6 PPR points per game, 6.1 half PPR points per game, and 4.5 standard points per game. So he didn't have all that great of a rookie campaign out of USC in 2020. Currently coming off the board as pick 105.2, Antonio Brown was 106.5. Now, with Mccall Pittman, it's pretty much an identical offense, just with what I would determine as a better quarterback in Carson Wentz over Phillip Rivers. Now, obviously, Phillip Rivers was by no means a bad quarterback, right? The guy didn't suck ass or something. He wasn't terrible, but he's not as good, in my opinion, as Carson Wentz. And I think that Mccall Pittman's second year should be much bigger, in the case that I will make a lot of exceptions for someone who played bad last year as a rookie. You want to know why? Because it was the COVID offseason. It was all this shit. They were dealing with so much adversity, getting hurt, this COVID shit. And he played not great. I understand, but I'm willing to put that behind him and not talk too much about his stats. I'll bring his stats up, obviously. 60 targets, 40 receptions, 503 receiving yards, 1 total touchdown. Not great numbers, right? But I think with the new offense, with Carson Wentz, I think that this team's going to be able to move the ball much better, and I think we could see a much better version of Mccall Pittman. I mean, at USC, there's a reason why he was drafted highly in the 2020 NFL draft. He was a second-round pick, a very early-on second-round pick. It's because his USC numbers were great. In 2019, he put up 1,200 receiving yards, 101 receptions, and 11 touchdowns. So he is by far not a bad wide receiver. Sure, he didn't have the greatest year one, but I think we can see a bounce back in 2021. Plus, T.Y. Hilton really isn't that good anymore, and he is by far and away, in my opinion, the wide receiver one of, or at least the guy with the most skill on this team besides Perry Campbell. So I think that Mccall Pittman is going to be in for a bounce-back season, and plus, you're not really reaching on the guy. You're not saying that Mccall Pittman's going to be a top 20 wide receiver when you're drafting him back here, so you're just boasting, or not boosting, you're just hoping for that late round upside that Mccall Pittman definitely does possess. Next up here is one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, and he ended up moving teams in the offseason. That is wide receiver, formerly of the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford's right-hand man, Marvin Jones, now wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars with Mr. Trevor Lawrence, current underdog ADP, the latest of the guys we've talked about thus far, 123.2, 123.2 for Mr. Marvin Jones, 6'2", 200 pounds. Now, Marvin Jones last year finished as the wide receiver 18 in PPR, 17.5 PPR, and wide receiver 15 in standard, meaning from a points per game perspective, he was wide receiver 26 in PPR, 21.5 PPR, and 22 in standard, playing in all 16 games last season, averaging 14.2 PPR points per game, 11.9 half PPR points per game, and 9.5 standard points per game. Now, a lot of people in the past have poked fun at Mr. Marvin Jones, saying he won't be able to stay healthy for a whole season. In 2018, this guy gets a knee contusion, out for 7 games. 2019, misses 3 games with an ankle sprain. In 2020, has a complete healthy season. Now, he obviously moves teams, so what does this mean for Marvin Jones? Now, Marvin Jones, in my opinion, is best as the wide receiver 2 on a team. Last season, with Golladay missing so much of the year, it seemed like Marvin Jones was the only guy out there. They don't really have another good wide receiver. Right now, they have no good wide receivers. You want to know who they have? They have a tackle that they drafted, and they have fucking TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. Those are the best receivers, and one's a tight end, and one is a running back. And the first guy I talked about was an offensive tackle. So I think that Marvin Jones here is in a very good situation in Jacksonville to be the wide receiver 2 behind Mr. Baby Chark, Baby Chark. Now, this is obviously in the narrative that Laviska Shenault ends up not panning out as well in Urban Meyer's system, and that Marvin Jones actually becomes the more favorite target by Mr. Trevor Touchdown Jesus Lawrence. Now, again, there's going to be a narrative. DJ Chark's going to be much better than him. I think DJ Chark is going to be very good, but I think this offense should be pretty solid, even if this defense sucks complete and utter ass in 2021. So I think you can talk about that narrative as well, that the defense is going to be bad, so they're going to have to be putting pressure on offense to throw the ball, to air the ball out, and I think that Marvin Jones is such a talented wide receiver that I'd be pissed if I didn't just take the shot. I understand that this is a crowded wide receiver room in Jacksonville. Same with Antonio Brown, how it's crowded in Tampa Bay, but you're going to feel like a dumbass if you don't draft Marvin Jones, and he ends up putting up the numbers that he's put up for the last 3 years in the NFL as being a solid wide receiver 2 in Detroit. So I'm willing to take the shot again on Mr. Marvin Jones in Jacksonville. We're about 10 minutes in this video, so if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you are new. So again, back into it. I think that Chenault's pretty solid, but I think Marvin Jones might even be better than DJ Chark as of right now in his career. So I think Jones should be pretty high in the pecking order of the wide receivers. So I think he's a relatively safe play back here based upon what we have seen in the past. A completely unsafe play here. This is like going in raw dog, no Trojan type of deal here. That's Mccall Hardman, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Mccall Hardman, I made this joke on Twitter, how when George Bush said, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again." Something like that is what he said, but he messed it up when he was saying it. That's basically what it is with Mccall Hardman. Fooled me in 2019. Can't fool me again. Fool me in 2020. Won't fool me again, but he fooled me twice in a row. He fooled me twice. And he might fool me 3 fucking times in a row, and it's shame on me at this point. But I am going to hunt for the upside. Sammy, eat a W. Watkins is gone. Now, but Nick, Sammy Watkins is basically gone for every single game except for week 1 every season, you dumb fuck. And I agree with that. Hardman has shown off prowess of being a good wide receiver. He is a deep down the field threat, balls deep in the defense, but hasn't really been able to put up numbers consistently, right? The guy runs a 4.33. 99th percentile at the wide receiver position. So he's very fast. Very fast. But last year, he didn't really have many boom games. Week 8 against the Jets, 22.6 points, wide receiver 7. Another alright game, wide receiver 21, week 3 up against Baltimore. So he didn't put up those huge games that we were hoping for. But maybe, I mean, the upside's still there. The upside is still there because this guy is just wide fucking open half the time. And if Patrick Mahomes is able to stay healthy, there is potential that we eventually see the Mccall Hardman season that I have personally been wanting for the last 2 years. Now, again, if you're trying to play it safe, then go ahead and draft Cole fucking Beasley here or something. And, you know, don't be silly, wrap your willy type of deal. But if you're trying to be risky in the late rounds, which is what I like to do, I like to get a little spicy back here and just say, fuck it. Let me draft a guy like Mccall Hardman, even though he finished as wide receiver 62 in PPR and half PPR last year, playing in all 16 games, wide receiver 60 in standard, only averaging 7.6 PPR points per game, 6.4 half PPR points per game, 5.1 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, he was wide receiver 82 in PPR, 80 and half PPR, and 77 in standard. But fuck it. Fuck it. I'm willing to take the shot because I think that if this guy is able to get consistent for 1 year, then you're gonna be very happy with Mccall Hardman. He's a real boom or bust candidate. He is either going to be, it's really a bust or bust candidate because you're gonna be busting watching this guy just fucking loads all over the screen, or Mccall Hardman's gonna bust on you via the screen and you're gonna get covered. All right? So it is what it is. It is what it is with Mccall Hardman. I think the talent is there, but we have not seen the consistency. And last year, we did not see much of that talent. Besides the fact that he's super fucking fast. He's like Lightning McQueen off the line. Really fast, but again, didn't really do much last year. Underdog ADP 114.2. Ended up putting up a grand total of 62 targets for 41 receptions, 560 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. So again, it's definitely risky, but I'm willing to take the risk in 2021 on Mr. Mccall Hardman, and you might be pretty hard, man, if he does pretty good. And final player, man didn't even play in the NFL last year. Why is that? Because he's a rookie. Short man, 5'7", wide receiver out of Purdue, Rondale Moore, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, 4.32 pro day 40. Fast as fuck as well. In college, this guy's a great 2018, right? Amazing. 2019 didn't play all that much. 2020 didn't play all that much. So the season to talk about is his freshman year. 114 receptions on 148 targets, 1,200 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns. 744 special teams yards. So this guy's legit. He's a versatile weapon, a shifty motherfucker. He will make you miss left and right. And he got put into a perfect situation in Cliff Kingsbury's spread offense. What the fuck is it called? Why did I forget what the name of the offense is that he calls it? It's like the fuck you in the ass offense. What's it actually called? It's like the gunslinging offense. I thought I was going to have to Google it, but of course, as I stopped talking, I remember what it is. The air raid offense. I think I just was showing, like, a whole lot of forehead there. I apologize for you guys if you got blind from my forehead. But, yeah, the air raid offense is going to be beautiful for Rondale Moore, as in my opinion, he will eventually become the wide receiver 2 in this offense. Nick, Christian Kirk's shown, like, 3 good games. Yeah, I understand. But, Nick, that's why you like Mccall Hardman. Shh. But with Christian Kirk, his job is gone. Gonzo, because I think that Rondale Moore has shown enough talent in college to surpass Christian Kirk. Does that mean I think Christian Kirk's bad? No. He'll just be the wide receiver 3 or 4, depending on what Larry Fitzgerald decides to do in 2021. But Rondale Moore shows a lot of explosiveness. He is going to be the clear number 2 in an offense that likes to throw the ball with a short king in Kyler Murray, thrown to another short king in Rondale Moore. I'm pretty sure they're the exact same height, 5'7", maybe 5'3" on a good day for Kyler Murray. So, if you guys want to be a little bit spicy, take a guy that's fun to watch on tape, you throw in his highlights. Now, I understand you're not supposed to just watch the highlights for a player. Don't do that. Type in Rondale Moore versus, and you can watch his old tape of, like, whole games. But if you just want to see some highlights, right, you're not about to sit there and fucking take some notes on his games from college. Just flip on fucking Rondale Moore highlight tapes, Bangarang by Skrillex, Bangarang. Like that type of shit, and it's just a banger. The guy's just juking everyone out. It's beautiful. So watch Rondale Moore highlights. Have a great rest of your guys' day. The guy's going to be juicy in 2021. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video, you had a great time, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you didn't have a good time, then I'm not too sure how you made it 17 minutes into the video, or however long this has been for you, depending on how long I had to edit out. Make sure to have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure to stay safe. And make sure to leave down below Ant-Man, because on Player Profiler, where I get these stats again, I'm not fucking just stealing the numbers. I'm reading them offline. MLA cited, playerprofiler.com, the picture of Rondale Moore's Ant-Man, because he's so short. Get it? Have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you all. Make sure you stay safe. I love you. As always, see you beautiful bastards tomorrow. Good boy.